Hello and welcome to the Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. And today I'm combining two situations because they're going to distill down to the same thing. And they're back to back, so I would be making two videos about the same thing. And we do get a lot that are the same. As you watch these videos, you will see a lot of repeat happening and you'll start to understand that you are not alone in this. So let's just start out. We have two anonymous female left behind spouses. The first one has a bomb drop of January 21st, 2021, a date of marriage of 1991. And she says her contact type is a vanisher and she's not familiar with energy levels. Second one, we have a bomb drop of December 18th, 2018. So we've got a few years between the bomb drops. The second one, we have a date of marriage of 1993, so they're very similar in their marriage lengths. Again, this second one also describes her husband as a vanisher and not familiar with energy type terms. So first one, description. My husband left in 2021. He said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." He would not seek depression counseling or regular counseling. He got with the alienator in May of 2021. And this was a girl he had met while in boot camp in 1988. He hadn't seen her in 30 years. He filed for divorce, and that divorce was granted in August of 2022. So a year and 8 months later. He came back in November of 2022. So after the divorce. He wanted to work things out. He stayed for 10 days. This is very common. Come back very briefly. Usually it's sooner than this, but they come back briefly. And then he left again. And that was November 2022. We didn't argue or fight in our marriage. He was a great husband and dad, and I can't say that anymore. He has very little contact with the children or grandchildren. He goes months without contact. He has left with family and friends, has had little contact with anyone. Now, after coming back in November of 2022, he went back to the alienator. Yeah, that's common. And he married her in December of 2022. He came home for 10 days in November 2022, but got married in December to somebody else. There's some cycling there. He waited for 3 months before he told his children. And this was just this last December. It is now April at this recording. I still love him. And I wonder if this is part of a midlife crisis. It's been a little over 2 years. And when will his behaviors change, at least for his children? Okay, let's go on to the next one. You can see the similarities. I had a loving husband, and one day he turned evil. The "I love you, but I'm no longer in love with you" speech. He wouldn't look at me again. He had black eyes. He said he'd been unhappy for years, and if you believed him, you were fine with him. He accepted you. If not, you were cut out of his circle, including his children. He talks to people about how happy his life is, how great it is, but he won't address the elephant. When we found out about the alienator, he became obsessed with her. Posts on social media with his new family. He recently got married. There's our biggest similarity right there. And I know he's in debt. Then the question about, before we had the question, is this part of MLC? This one is, surely this screams MLC. Advice, am I missing something? I don't really think you're missing something. Well, you're missing him, right? And you're missing the core him. It's MLC, both of you. This is MLC. It is not, most of them do not marry the alienator, but it is not uncommon. It's just not highly in our statistical probability, but it happens. And it just so happens we've got two back-to-back that happens too. And it happens very suddenly. It is normal that they don't tell anybody, or they wait months to tell anybody. They just hide it. Sometimes they don't even tell anybody that you're divorced, even if they're remarried. Yeah, doesn't make sense. I know. So the biggest thing, when will his behavior change? Looking at, start with bomb drop, and this doesn't mean that's when the behavior will change, but I want you to learn how to do this, the time thing. The midlife crisis starts before bomb drop. Yes. You can sometimes recognize what's going on. Dad died a year before bomb drop, And there may have been the anger signs and some, you notice behavioral changes. Sometimes you don't, but you had an excuse. Well, his dad died. He was grieving. Bomb drop, however, is when we start the clock for when we say midlife crisis lasts this long, 3 to upwards of 7 years. That is from bomb drop. The reason is because bomb drop is when they make public their intentions to change the marriage, that I don't want to be in this, and then they change who they are with you. Now you're the enemy, or you might be the enemy and then you're not, and then you are and then you're not, depends. But suddenly they were pretending and trying to hold on to life as normal before bomb drop. So it might not have been, and you might have been fooled, or something happened very suddenly and they changed very suddenly. That can happen. But bomb drop, this whole wall comes down of this was life before and this is life after. The bomb has gone off. Imagine the changes in your life with a literal bomb going off and your house is destroyed. You escaped, but now all the rebuilding you have to do. You might not be able to, you might have to rebuild on that location, or you might not be able to. All of those changes. It is an immediate thing. And that's why the time starts measuring after that. So, when will the behaviors change? They have escape and avoid. And both of them are newly married. The second one, I don't think it says when. Let's see. It says recently got married. And I'm going to assume it's that alienator. If not, it's certainly another one. So both of them are newly married. They're still escaping and avoiding. And like one of them said, this is clearly it's a limerence thing. Oh, I think that's actually the next question. But they're in limerence with the alienator first. Limerence itself can be 12 to 36 months as a general rule. It can be longer if it is illicit, but it's not really now because illicit is really about hiding it and sneaking around, living a double life, hiding it from you. It's not illicit. They have tried to come out and make it legitimate, even if they're not telling everybody. So that does not mean the behavior will change when limerence ends. First, there's a few things that can happen when limerence ends. Emotional blackmail. It might already be going on. It can take the place of limerence. It can hold on. Because they have taken the plunge and actually made this legal, they may feel even more stuck in the relationship, even if they want out of it. They may feel that it is harder to get out, and so I'm going to try to make it work. And let's say it's doomed. Let's say it's going to end in divorce. Versus the other one who didn't get married, but they're living together in a marital style relationship. That one maybe could just end faster simply because of the lack of a legal hurdle. And I didn't do this, so we can separate easier. So it might take longer. They're going to be stuck in that longer. Not always. He has to go through his escape and avoid, and that's what's going to happen. After escape and avoid, those traumas that are the cause of MLC from childhood, they're going to start saying, hey, you cannot avoid me anymore. And they're going to burst out more and more, and he's going to end up in liminality. But escape and avoid can last for years. They are both at a point, given the bomb drop dates, where they might be exiting escape and avoid or out of it. But they might not, because it can last for years. But I don't expect that any MLCer to be out of escape and avoid before 18 months, and 18 months is soon. So I say, if it's been 18 months since bomb drop, they're probably in escape and avoid. If it's been 12, I say they are. I don't even question it. They are in escape and avoid. After 18 months, I say they're probably still in escape and avoid. After 24 months, they could be in escape and avoid, but they could be moving out of it. They could be still in it at 36 months, at 3 years, or not. You're at a point where they might be and can be, are at a point where they could be transitioning out. But right now, due to these recent marriages, they're still running. It's going to go on. What do you need to do about that? Both of them, according to you, have very little contact, vanishers. The disadvantage is If you have more contact, clinging boomerangs want more reassurance. They have more frequent contact. They have better odds of reconciliation. They're also the ones that may want it, which is why they have better odds. They stay in contact. They want to be reassured that we're going to be there waiting for us. But there's a disadvantage to that as well. And the disadvantage is the advantage that you get. You get space. You have the time to heal. You don't have them as the distraction, giving you constant mixed messages, constantly engaging you with monstering or with, please don't go away, please remember me, please, I want to come home, back and forths. Confusing mixed messages cycling. You don't have that as much. You are given an opportunity to heal and focus on yourself that is more open or more pure than somebody who has their MLC constantly in their face. And I know it sucks, and I know you don't get the closure, but you do get some time, and you are to use that time. They are going to be off, avoiding their crisis and going through it. Avoiding is part of going through it. It sucks. That is the part that makes it a crisis. If they skipped the avoiding part and went into liminality, then it would be a midlife transition. Because we can still go through a crisis of identity and not avoid it. The escape and avoid is what makes it midlife crisis, not just a midlife transition. Midlife crisis is a type of midlife transition. Your job, heal, detach, go out and get your life, enjoy it, thrive. I don't want you to just survive. I want you to thrive. I want you to be an example of how to overcome, how to take back your power, and how to be the lighthouse. Forget about him. You can be a lighthouse for him, for the world, for your children and your grandchildren. For you to be the example of bad stuff happens, and I didn't just survive it. Surviving means you have a pulse. I'm now thriving. You might not be thriving yet, but you know that you can thrive. And thriving is a state up here. It's not about money. It's not about status. It's about how you feel and how you project out. It's about the joy you feel inside and the joy that you give out because it's contagious. Your job is to heal, and they are going to be off on their little crisis, and they're vanishers. So they may not be bothering you very much with that crisis. And you can hope, and you can pray. I know that sounds like the thoughts and prayers that we keep hearing where they don't have any oomph behind them. But here's the thing. It's not your crisis. You don't get to control it. You can't make them come out of it. But you can be healed, and they can look to you as, wow, she is amazing. And maybe they said that before and they used that as their reason for leaving. I've heard that sometimes it's a martyr thing, but it's still a good thing to be. She's amazing. I wish I knew what her secret was. I want some of that. What is her magic pill? That's the lighthouse. When they look at you and they want some of it, they want your secret. What's the secret sauce that she's got? What does she know that I don't know? That's it. That's the lighthouse. The lighthouse is living your best life, being your best self, not because revenge is the best. What is it? What is that saying about revenge? It's not about revenge. It's for you. When we think about it as revenge, we're thinking about, how am I going to get that other person? And then it's kind of, I'm going to live my good life out of spite. No, live your good life because it's what you should have and you deserve and what your children deserve. And I know it's hard to say, this doesn't make sense. It's crazy. Yes, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. I mean, they just went off and married their alienator. One of them came home for a few days and a matter of weeks later got married to someone else. It's completely insane. And the other thing that really shows, especially in that one, and might be in both, is the control the alienator likely has over them. Think about a Fair Downs and how much control that person has, how much fear the alienator has about you. So much that they had to say, well, you know what? I had better close the deal on this one. Possession 9/10 of the law. And he's mine now. And now they think that he's trapped, but he's not. But for a while, yeah. And you just have to say, you know what? These are his mistakes. And I can't go and tell him how sad it is that he's making these mistakes. A couple truth darts here and there, but really he has to make them. So you can't go in there and interfere in their marriage, if that's what you're going to call it, and mess it up. That Titanic's going to sink on its own, and I want you to have faith in that and empathy for it as well. Empathy for it is like, so when they come to you someday and they say, I made a big mistake. And maybe the mistake is leaving you. Maybe the mistake is marrying her. Maybe it's both. Maybe the mistake is leaving, marrying, but they're not asking to come back. Maybe it is. They're saying, I wish I could come back. Maybe it's all of those. We'll see. But show empathy. That's part of the lighthouse. It's part of the grace and part of being in your best self. That's compassion. Say, I know. I'm so sorry. And you had to figure it out for yourself. You can't rescue them. You rescue them, they fail. They are the butterfly and they are inside the cocoon. And if you open that cocoon up and help them, they won't gain the muscles to fly. So I want you to feel assured and work on what you can to let go of all of these obsessive thoughts that might be going on about them. And the closure you're going to get is they're having an identity crisis and they didn't choose it. And the roots of it are in their childhood. I don't want to use the words they can't help it. That's why I say they didn't choose. But they are going through this. There's a compulsion within them. When the bomb went off, that bomb, think of it as a bomb with things inside of it. And the things inside of it are all of the traumas that they had coming up through childhood. Traumas that were things they did, things that were done to them, things they did because things that were done to them. And some of it weren't from people being bad, some of it was, but maybe mom died of cancer. Well, that's not bad, but it's trauma. Sexual abuse, bad trauma. Somebody did something against you and bad to you. Mom died, so dad was so grief-stricken that he became an alcoholic. Trauma. All of these things. And that's why it's happening. It's not about you. Your job is to just be your best self and have faith that you are helping them get through their crisis by letting them get through it without interfering. Okay? I hope this is helpful, and I will see everybody in the next question.